Hey everyone, we're here for the virtual roundtable in retail and sustainability. I have four of the leading great minds in retail technology and solutions to move this mission forward. I have Nate Faust of Olive. Nate's deep experience in innovation in retail reaches back to his role as co-founder at Jet.com and former head of US ecomm supply at Walmart. He is now the founder of Olive. Olive is working with your favorite retailers to deliver your online orders without cardboard and plastic mailers. Also joining us is Stephanie Crespin, founder and CEO of Reflaunt and StyleTribute.com. Stephanie brings to the luxury fashion industry innovative technologies and tools to enable leading brands to embrace the circular economy. Partner and EVP of Newmine. Newmine's technology solutions empower persistent and proactive returns reduction. Have you heard of the Chief Returns Officer? Well, you'll hear about that from Donny. Mehdi Dogri, co-founder and CTO of Save Your Wardrobe. Save Your Wardrobe is a digital wardrobe management app promoting sustainability by helping you connect with the contents of an existing wardrobe, as well as offering services to extend the lifestyle of owned items. Welcome, everyone. Let's do an around the horn quick intro. Tell us something about you, your company, that really speaks to the mission of retail and sustainability.
Reflaunt's core mission is extending the life cycle of products. The way that we're positioned is that we work directly with the brands and retailers, and we allow them to have brand-powered resale services. What's interesting about the way that we angled our service and our final mission is that by basically partnering up with brands and with retailers and enabling this resale service, we also empower brands to take ownership and responsibility over the products that they also put on the market. So beyond just extending the life cycle of products by giving a second life, third life, we also ensure through this model that brands and retailers put, qualitative and durable items on the market.
Nate, why don't you give us what's going on with you and Olive?
Sure. At Olive, our mission is really to create both the most sustainable and most delightful delivery and return experience for shopping online for brands. And really it all revolves around a closed loop supply chain where we work with retailers to offer waste-free delivery at checkout, to have orders delivered in reusable packaging like this that we pick up along with any returns from the customer, and all of this with turnkey integrations through things like our Shopify app and partnerships with different return platforms, and all with sort of no incremental costs to brands or their customers.
That's great. Donny, tell us about Newmine.
So first of all, thanks for having me, Christine. Great to meet all the other panelists here. We're all here centered around the mission of returns, and NRF just released some stats for this past year that there's $761 billion of returns on merchandise sold in the U.S. just this past year, and that accounts for 16.6% of domestic sales, and that's up 6% from last year. Big problem, big issue, accelerating. And each of us are sitting on this roundtable are approaching it from different perspectives, but ultimately looking to address this tsunami called returns. What we do at Newmine is we believe that the best return is one that never has to happen. So we're really in the returns reduction business. There are a lot of companies that are saying we already have a return. How can we optimize on that process, whether it's making the customer experience easier or driving some cost out of reverse logistics or just disposing. But what we do at Newmine is we look for the root causes of returns. Turns out 73% of causes for returns are under the control of the retailer to some degree. So if we can, leveraging artificial intelligence and big data analytics, if we can actually determine the root causes of that, and actually create workflows that help the retailer correct that action, bad copy, bad picture, bad packaging, all those kinds of things, then that return actually never happens. And right now, returns are mushrooming, or they're just growing as quick or even quicker than revenues because of the change from offline to online, pandemically induced. And we're actually in the business of reducing returns and having great success with brands like Title IX, Office Depot, folks like that.
Thank you. Mehdi. Tell us
Thank
about extending the life cycle of what's already in your closet and how you're going about doing that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, so Mehdi, I'm the co-founder of Save Your Wardrobe. So fashion tech startup based in London, but we have operation across Europe. And what we do at Save Your Wardrobe, we really want to use tech to help you reconnect with the content of your wardrobe. So how can we actually help you seamlessly digitize your closet or wardrobe so you can actually find all the clothes you love that you bought already, give you recommendation and data about you, what you wear, what you don't wear, how sustainable your wardrobe is. And to try to extend the life of your garment, we want to use the data about your closet to actually help you connect with what we call a decentralized, aftercare platform that connects you with the best cobbler around you, repair services, cleaning, you name it, anything that can help, take care of your clothes in a better way. So we do it on the B2C side, so people can download the free app that is available worldwide, when you can have like tips to take care of your clothes, but also, on the area where we're live, you can connect to those repair services. But we do it as well, through a B2B partnership. So we have a big project, for example, in Germany with Zalando, where today, Zalando consumer, actually German consumer in general, can actually use our platform in partnership with Zalando to can repair for their clothes, to connect, to local, seamstresses, repair shops, cobbler, shoe cleaner for, for more like sneakers, to actually like more leather shoes that needs to be repaired. So that's what we do at Save Your Wardrobe, and really want to streamline the whole booking experience of those repair services.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, I'm going to just describe a scenario, a real world practical scenario. And let's see what our thoughts are about this. A client goes to an e-commerce site of a brand. As an aside, the client has previously linked the contents of their closet to the brand. Their contents of their closet is digitally registered. The client selects the item that complements, let's say, a skirt that they already own. And the item that they choose is accurately represented on the site with text and image optimized based on feedback and voice of the customer over time. The goods are prepared to ship on the client's designated delivery date in reusable containers. The client wears the garment to several events and then puts it up for resale on a marketplace. How does that sound?
You've just connected all our businesses. That's exciting.
Right. So what I've done for people watching this is to show how all of these businesses interconnect, how all of these businesses interact to move the sustainability needle forward, and how it's pretty basic to how people are already doing their customer journey. So let's break it down. The client goes on an e-commerce site where they've already linked the contents of their closet to the brand, and they select a garment that complements a skirt that is shown that they already own. Raise your hand if you are that technology. Well, actually say yes, because the camera will only move when there's sound.
Yes, I can see you all, but that's Mehdi from Save Your Wardrobe. Yes, definitely. So it's exactly, and thanks for describing it that way. That's exactly how we want to, to do it in the future and in the near future. To break it down, that process, it means in that people need to digitize their wardrobe first, and it means that it needs to be like, what I would say a global digital wardrobe. It needs to be outside of the silo of those brands and retailer. A little bit what's happening in the fintech industry and the open banking world, like for example in Europe, where you have like your wallet and connected to the best fintech. In the fashion space, it means that your wardrobe need to follow you whatever you actually shop. You need to have that, that catalog or wallet, how you want to name it, of all the items you own and you care about, that basically follows you in that customer experience. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here.
Okay, let's move on. The client then selects a skirt, a top to complement the skirt that they already own. And they select this top that has been tweaked by the retailer based on voice of the customer, based on AI feedback, so that the description and the imagery, it accurately, super accurately reflects the fit, the color, all of it, so that when the item arrives, the person has zero reason to possibly do a return. Raise your hand if that's what you do.
That would be me. That would be Newmine.
Donny, tell us about that.
So a couple things here. First of all, I think it's really great the way you've tied these together, because the underlying message is there is no kind of silver bullet panacea for solving the returns problem and the related sustainability problem. I mean, returns have implications on sustainability, have implications on top and bottom line of the retailer, and have implications on customer satisfaction. But it is a complex issue that each of us are attacking from a different angle. And I think what's really interesting, you've woven them together because it is going to take an aggregated solution to really address returns on the front end, in season, on the back end, all the way around in the packaging. So, and you precisely indicated what we do, and that is that we're getting near real-time data about the returns transactions, so that, and then we're putting it through our predictive prescriptive analytics engine, and we're telling the retailer or the brand owner, this is what you need to do early in the season so that you don't compound a problem that you may have had in manufacturing or in copy or in studio or any of those kinds of things. And at the end of the day, you're going to end up with fewer returns, dramatically fewer returns. But that's, again, one cog in the wheel of this entire process. So great way you wove that together.
Great. Let's keep going. So then once they buy this super accurate garment that's connected to what they already own, it's prepared to ship on the client's designated delivery. Lean in, Nate. It's prepared to ship on the client's designated delivery date in reusable containers. Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty crazy. We've been shopping online as a society for over 25 years. And literally every year there's, in the US alone, 10 billion plus shipments delivered in single-use packaging, nearly every single delivery. And not only is that a major environmental issue, it's a huge customer pain point that, combined with dealing with the waste and also dealing with returns. And that's where really Olive steps in to deliver both the most sustainable and also delightful delivery and returns experience for brands and their customers through a 2-click integration through our Shopify app, so that Olive eco-friendly delivery shows up at checkout, native integrations with multiple major 3PLs, so your goods and orders can be packed into Olive reusable shippers with no incremental cost or operational effort on your behalf. And then premium last mile delivery and pickup off of consumers' doorsteps.
Sounds great. I'm really frightened by these numbers with these billions. It's not.
Let me just interject something in support of Nate, and that is a stat that I got here, that in 2019, Amazon alone generated 465 million pounds of plastic packaging, of which 22.4 ended up in freshwater and marine ecosystems and pollution. And those were all one-time uses. There's 5 billion pounds of returns that go into landfill every year. So the numbers, to your point, are staggering, absolutely staggering, and they're not sustainable.
It's got to stop. I have one stat from the EPA that 54% of all packaging gets recycled. We know recycling is it's a bit of we've got to pivot away from it because it's just not happening at the scale that we need it to. But let's go back to the customer journey. So now in reusable containers, the garments have been delivered, the client wears them, enjoys it, and maybe has grown out of them, maybe has had a size change. We are familiar with that. Sure. So once the client is like, you know what, I don't or I'm having a child and it just simply does not fit me anymore. We need to keep these garments out of landfills. So the client puts it up for resale on a marketplace. Stephanie.
Yes, that would be Reflaunt. So indeed, how it works is you already have all your past purchases in your account. They're already there, digitalized. And basically next to each item, you have a resale button. So once you click that resale button, that triggers 3 pop-ups, but your listing is already pre-populated. So you have the pictures, the description, even information about the footprint of that item you could have. And you just need to add additional information on the current condition of the item, a few additional pictures on, signs of use, and even the pricing is already calculated and guides you on what's the optimal price range at which you should be selling that piece. And once that's done, the product is listed not on one marketplace, but today we have 27 marketplaces. So that's the beauty of our network, is that it's global, and we list it simultaneously on marketplaces like ThreadUp, like Goat, Vestiaire Collectif, eBay, with each of their different audiences. And once the item is sold, then you receive a shipping label to ship that item to the final buyer, and you get paid in cash or shopping credits. And the best thing about that is usually the brand and retailer tops up with about 10 or 20% of added value. So rather than receiving a transfer of $500, you receive, $550 or even more in shopping credits.
I'm very intrigued by the fact that you post once and it goes across many marketplaces, because I think one of the reasons why people don't do resale is it's very laborious. And we're talking even for the Gen Xers who live on their, sorry, not Gen Xers, that's me. I'm a Gen Xer. Gen Z and Gen A, like my niece is like, oh, I'm selling stuff on ThreadUp, but wow, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So what you're offering is very interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the main pain points of resale, and a key hinder of growth for resale is the friction around resale, the process of resale, of having to take all that information, all those beautiful pictures. That's definitely a great pain point.
Agree. Now, so I believe that it's well established that the customer and industry organizations want change. So from my research, I've come across Stand.Earth. They want to keep fossil fuels out of garments. You have the Copenhagen Fashion Summit, Global Fashion Agenda, Changing Market Foundation, and there are more, many, many more that are pushing the sustainability agenda. They may or may not be working with you. I believe that the customer wants change. Let's talk about what's happening with the retailers. So this is really a question about total addressable market for your business, and what sort of change has happened in the past 12 to 18 months. Has retailer interest grown? And also, are you aware if they're hitting sustainability targets? I would think some of the larger enterprise ones are. They're being held to an ESG. They're being evaluated for ESG, but we have brands of all sizes engaging with all different types of technology, all of your types of technology. So this is a question about what's happening inbound. We'll go around. We'll start with Nate. Why don't you give us kind of that, where it started, where it's at? Are customers really making brands change?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely a tremendous amount of interest in addressing climate change and sustainability issues by retailers, by end consumers, by society in general. But I think one of the biggest challenges is that our society really functions around a free market environment. And at the moment, the lowest cost solutions for most steps in most supply chains across industries are ones that produce increasing levels of carbon emissions. And that's really what's at the core of our solution, is creating a solution that is priced at parity with the status quo, so that you can have the better customer experience, the more sustainable outcome, and at no additional cost to your brand or to your customers. And with that sort of trifecta value proposition, we've seen tremendous interest from brands. And now that we have the technology built, primarily our Shopify integration and our integrations with 3PLs, to really get this up and running and moving with scale, we're excited for the path ahead.
Okay, so just to recap, you're saying the industry, in your view, the industry is still motivated by margin and price, and that the way to really get engagement is to be comparable from a price standpoint, so that you can really get that look, that engagement from the brands to move over to solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Especially because in the long term, we know that the costs of carbon emissions and the costs of climate change will eventually become priced into economic systems. And so you just have to bet ahead on that and offer the future solutions at the cost structures that work for retailers today.
Okay, Donny, what are you experiencing? Are you coming at the enterprise level? Do you see like, well, we have to check this box. We have to be ESG compliant, or do you see a real want and desire to do it? Or give us like kind of the pendulum of what you're hearing and seeing.
So definitely see a confluence of forces right now. Companies like Nike has a move to zero initiative where they're going to cut emissions by 30% by 2030. You've got Nordstrom that we have some involvement with that are involved in reducing the waste going into landfills and very committed to this. To your point, there are ESG initiatives at virtually all of the major companies, and they have to show progress in that respect. And then I think to Nate's point, you've got 52% of the consumers in the fashion industry who say they are more inclined to deal with retailers that have sustainable practices. So those dynamics are we're seeing change in the attitude now of retailers and brand owners. Historically, returns was just sort of a necessary part of doing business. There's nobody that typically owned returns in its entirety and sustainability for that matter. And that's changing. A number of the companies that we're dealing with now, not only do they have task forces, but they have individuals who are responsible for returns reduction, returns consumer experience, returns packaging, all those kinds of things, which didn't exist 2 or 3 years ago. So it's changing, and it percolates from the top all the way down to the bottom.
Well, yeah, if you measure it, you can change it. Mehdi, what is your point of view on this?
Yeah, I mean, definitely on our side, during the pandemic, what we've seen is like first, most of the brand and retail we worked with have stopped talking about digitization and e-commerce, excellence. That was a fact, they needed to get their stuff sorted. The stores were closed and they need to get the items back, to the consumers directly to their home. So then actually after that shift happened, and for the one that were the most advanced, we had like quite a lot of inbounds from brands and retailers like asking us during that, quite weird time that, very hard to push, I think, like the last black dress or things like that. How do I reach out to my customer differently? How do I support them during that time? And I know that that's a stretch, but when you think about the wardrobe and reconnecting with your wardrobe, it's also about, wellness. It's actually about, what you own already is actually, some value. They have some assets. And, what I really like in your example, connecting actually stuff you already have with like that purchase experience, make it human a little bit. What a personal assistant in the VIP experience will actually do. They know what you have, and they can actually, add that piece that will actually add value in your wardrobe, unlock actually that many outfits or that many, like outfits in your wardrobe and day-to-day life. So it makes you feel good about that purchase, and because it is a good purchase, something that adds value. So that was the main part. As we have also the aftercare platform, the repair and care. That's also something else. We had like a big boom of people asking, how do I have time now? I'm at home. I'm next to my closet, next to my wardrobe. I want to take care of my clothes. I want to wear back, that item, but I need to repair it. And then you realize that all their habits have changed. When usually you were commuting, for example, in London, in the city or in Canary Wharf, or you had like all those repair shops next to the tube station or to the metro or the underground, you basically, don't have them anymore. You're back to your neighborhood where you didn't used to live, like, from Monday to Friday. That was really different. And brands and retailers are also now in that, like Donny have said, in a way where they do want to support, sustainable behavior as well after purchase. So when you buy an item now from a brand or retailer, you expect them to be able to tell you how I'm going to repair it. How should I clean it? Where should I clean it? If I have to do some alteration because, I don't want to return that item, I really love it. That was the last piece, on Net-a-Porter or, like on sale. Where should I do the alteration? And I think we're in a time where they, unfortunately, they can't do it just, in one country. They need to do it globally. And platforms like ours help them with that decentralized approach, leveraging small businesses and leveraging people that have the expertise locally is helping actually those consumers get connected with those local businesses and get still the convenience, or especially with the COVID, I don't want to go there. I don't want to risk it. It's not worth it. So I'm getting used to that convenience of having someone, pick it up from home and drop it back when it's done.
Right. Got it. Well, my brain just sort of is like connects the way we connected the customer journey at the heart of a lot of this is for the client owned, right? So you've got Save Your Wardrobe and then you've got Reflaunt, is documentation of what you own. Let's say at the Save Your Wardrobe level, maybe the store or the retailer even provides you with a digital photo. Like you don't even have to take a picture. File of the photo, it goes into your registered closet. And then you can constantly go into your own personal inventory and decide to move it over to Reflaunt and sell it. And the work is already done. So maybe retailers have to embrace doing like up front, creating by client a digital inventory. And that's a whole other conversation. So we'll move over to Reflaunt because that really can become a feed. But let's just talk about brands engaging in your business. Have you seen it grow exponentially over the past 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, I have to agree with what Mehdi just talked about, and I think the pandemic was really a tipping point, because before that we're in the resale business. Brands were starting to get excited and interested about resale because the market has grown to such a size that you could not ignore it anymore, but it was still looked at from a distance. And they were still concerned with cannibalization and how that would impact their current business. So it was more treated as ESG initiatives, and circularity was still a siloed department. And then what happened with the pandemic, and I need to repeat a bit what Mehdi said very quickly, is that you had such a shift in behaviors of their own consumers, and then their numbers were not looking too bright, that they were forced to rethink their business models and rethink the way that they were driving their growth. And so what happened is that all these sustainable solutions went from being side initiatives, being paramount in how they would structure their new business models, right? And then suddenly as well, what happened is that it was not anymore a trade-off between sustainability and profitability. It was, okay, we no matter what need to redefine our business models. They need to be sustainable no matter what. Now, how are we going to grow through the different solutions that exist out there? And Reflaunt, has a service where we don't do any trade-off. We're helping you grow, and we're becoming a growth engine, but helping brands do so in a sustainable manner, right? As through circularity. So rather than the more you sell first-hand products, the more you grow. No, it's more a question of, now that you've sold a piece, how will you enable resale afterwards, and how will you generate more loyalty, more engagement, revenue from that? So yeah, I think it's shifted. Now I do see kind of like not a glass ceiling, but some friction around how quickly they can adapt their customer journey. And that's why I think it's so important that we have these kind of panels and these kind of roundtables, is that we actually need to help these brands and retailers connect all these solutions together. And it's through collaboration that will accelerate the adoption of these brands to new business models. So that's really key, and I take it very much at heart.
Yeah, there does tend to be a bandwidth problem within at least US retailers. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here in terms of there may be interest, but the actual pulling, incorporating it into their infrastructure of their corporate office and pulling the trigger, there's a lot on everyone's plate. So in terms of the next question, I'm going to speak to you about each of your own companies. So two-part question. In the past, let's use during the pandemic as the time frame. What has been your company's biggest challenge? And since you're all in various stages of growth, I'm sure it's everything from sales to marketing to inbound to burden of education. So we're aware of that. Maybe there's something novel there. And what has been your aha moment? And that's very different from an oh shit moment, which I'm sure happens daily in terms of being in a growth company. So in terms of kind of those when you're growing a business and you're really kind of carving out a new attainable market, because I think we've identified that the customer wants it, that the associations want it. There is a need for it there, but it's not like retailers are pounding the table to look for this. They have supply chain issues that they need to solve, margin problems that they need to solve. They are aggressively addressing their corporate initiatives. They're not aggressively saying, there are exceptions. Okay. I'm just speaking very broadly. They're not really aggressively seeking solutions. It's a bandwidth issue. It's all of those things. So how are you pivoting, aha moment, challenge, carving through? I hope all of that makes sense. Mehdi, why don't you give us some of that, like, breakthrough?
I think I'm going to repeat what Stephanie said, because, I think what was important there, it's actually what happened for us. I think, the main challenge is exactly what you both described right now. It's actually, I think, convincing brand and retailers that there is a shift of paradigm and that they need, actually, it's not one solution. Like Donny said, there isn't a silver bullet. It's actually connecting all of us together. And that's very tricky because, usually, those brand and retailer have like units that work on a specific subject, the marketing team, the analytics team, the sustainability team. But unfortunately, in this new world, it's all those teams that need to work together. So the main challenge is actually to finding that sponsor internally that is so actually buying that new vision and that he's aware that he's going to change, that he's making all those connections. Otherwise, that you're still that, small company outside of those big players that need to do those connections. And unfortunately, as I've worked as well before in the corporate environment, I know how it's tricky to manage all those stakeholders and connect all those teams together. So, finding the right sponsor at CX level and possible like at middle management as well, for the operation and day to day is the challenge. But when it's happening, and that's my aha moment, it can go very fast. Project like the one we've done in Europe with Zalando and all of that, went live in a few months, like in a couple of months, buying, for CX level, strong sustainability strategy. They really wanted to make it happen and deliver it. And then, you really have like all the team join together and you can deliver. So I think that's my aha moment, when it's happening, and then you can see the result. Customers are happy, they repair clothes, they share their stories. And you can see then, other, fortunately for us, then the other brands and retailers, want to actually come on board and have a chat because someone actually, I would say, took that initiative or risk, you name it how you want, that, they know, like Stephanie said, that actually it's not the classic bottom line of transactional business that they were used to for the last, 100 years. It's actually back to now actually more platform businesses, like, some example of, Farfetch, sometimes Zalando have created in the past. They know that it's not a transaction anymore. It's actually connecting the consumers at every stage and it's circular. It's actually a lot of moving pieces. So I hope that in a way, the more and more all of us around the table are actually delivering amazing experiences, maybe at one part of that value chain, that's going to unlock actually the next startup and the next brand and the next retailer.
I just want to comment because I what you're saying is what happens is, and I'd love to get comments on this from the remainder of the commentators, is fundamentally retail is still set up in a very siloed way, in groups that doesn't align with the customer journey. So I propose that actually, rather than having production, merchandising, marketing, finance, and sort of the traditional ways of setting up a retailer, I think it would be really interesting to set up an entire organization from a pre-purchase, purchase, and post-purchase organization. You would still have the same roles, but every day, everything you do, you're wearing the hat, you're in the department of pre-purchase, and you're putting the customer at the center of that. And I believe, Mehdi, marketplaces and newer forms of retail are really more fluidly set up for that. They're digitally native. They're not sitting on floors. I mean, everything about an organization functions in a way, like if you're sitting with the marketing department, then you're just going to think about marketing all day, versus if you're sitting with the pre-purchase department, because you're communicating to the client before they purchase, you're getting them messages. It's a different mindset. And I think that I've come across great technological solutions that are knocking on doors where they really don't know where their portal is. I love to always reference The Lord of the Rings, and when they're like stuck at the gate and Gandalf doesn't know the code, that's kind of what's going on here when they're going in the cave. It's like, Do you go through the CFO? Do you go through marketing? Are you talking to planners? Is it the buyers? Like, making that connection becomes a challenge. So I don't know how you guys feel about that and what your experience is, but Stephanie, why don't you take on this question?
Yeah, I mean, we're faced with the same challenges. It's difficult when you have those siloed kind of structure of companies, and usually it's the case for big retailers and big brands. The way that we've seen it successful in terms of acquisition for us is we kind of have a modular service. So our base service is purely digital. So you resell from your account through that smart button, we call it. But then we have two other complementary services where we build out marketplaces for the brands and for the retailers, peer-to-peer marketplaces like for H&M, Alex Arigato, Gani. And then we have a third service, which is more of a concierge white glove service where you're a customer, you can drop off in store at Harvey Nichols your items, and then we have operational partners that collect it, digitalize it. And basically what I mean is that with those three different types of service, they have different angles and different objectives, and they fit as well different types of brands and retailers. And that gives us different entry points to the organization. So we've used those three different services, and we even had a service that we kind of divested now, but which was helping brands sell their end of stock at the moment of the pandemic, which was really relevant. And I think a bottom line is that we realized that with our solution, which is, addressing a new market, addressing a new model, we had to have entry points that had a different storyline, that had a bit of different tweaking so that it could be relevant for whoever we had in front of us. So the end of inventory, to be honest, was a big one for us, because that was everyone talking about, how can I sell this end of stock? And that was a really good entry point for us, because it enabled us to acquire the brand, build a relationship with him while getting them to experience our network of resale and our solution. But yeah, there's no perfect solution. It's one tactic, but I'm sure there's plenty of others.
Well, I like to hear about that pivot. You were doing that solution while it worked, and then you're on to doing, your actual business model. Nate, what are your thoughts on this in this area?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely true. There's lots of different folks on many of these solutions within a retailer that you have to get together to hold hands to move forward. I think the way we've structured the value proposition for Olive's eco-friendly delivery service really has something for every stakeholder in the company, starting with most clearly sustainability teams in terms of introducing waste-free delivery, operational teams in terms of turnkey integrations, especially where we manage a lot of the heavy lifting directly with 3PLs, with technology teams where through our partnerships and integrations with platforms like Shopify and Loop Returns, there's zero technical work for the tech teams at brands. And then from the financial side of things, being cost neutral, makes it an easy sell to the CFO and finance teams. So we've really tried to structure it where no matter which entry point we can come into from a retailer based on introductions and networking, we've got a value proposition component that speaks to every element of the business.
I love it. Was there any pivot moment from the time you walked outside and you founded this company because you saw the Amazon boxes to what you're doing today? Did you pivot? Was there like an aha moment where it was like, okay, let's focus on this?
Yeah, so we started where the waste is eliminated end to end. We had a pretty onerous integration path for brands to go through, which required a lot of customization and a lot of direct API integration for teams to go through. And then really the aha moment of starting with Shopify and building a Shopify app, doing direct integrations with 3PLs who can then go out and help pitch our offering to hundreds of brands, and then integrations with various return platforms so that it can truly be turnkey, because that historically was one of the biggest sort of hindrances. But that's where we're at right now, where we've just really completed all those integrations and partnerships across the value chain, and so now we're out with a very streamlined offering to brands, still with the sustainability benefits and the no incremental costs, but now with very turnkey, straightforward launches.
Yeah, you raise a good point. Integration is key. I mean, you'll get nowhere if you have a difficult onboarding. I'm sure you've all addressed that. Donny, weigh in on this.
So a couple of things. To the credit of the founder, Navjeet Bhasin of Newmine, he had this vision that returns were going to be a big problem that had to be addressed and couldn't be just swept under the rug. He had that before the pandemic hit. Pandemic has been a massive accelerant. We spent the first 2 years doing just a lot of evangelizing. Everybody knew they had some issues around returns. It was very kind of segmented, non-holistic view of the issue. The folks that are out there right now are much stronger, and their receptivity to technology is much higher than it was just 2 years ago. And that's a great thing. And they're adopting, there's this like influx of choices and options that they're having to weigh. And the good and bad news is that the returns issue and the sustainability issues around that and the P&L issues around that are just something that can't be avoided right now. So it's a problem that has to be addressed now. And as I said, the pandemic was a huge accelerant, and I'm hearing that from everybody else here as well. What we have that has worked really successfully for us is, speaking to your discussion around friction, having built systems and implemented systems in retail that typically had lots of integration. One of our design kind of architectural precepts was it needs to be pretty frictionless. So we've managed to be able to bring in, capture all this data, get insights, within less than 30 days with virtually no lift from the internal IT department. We just need a transaction file, excuse me, and we're on the go. But what we found that's really effective is we can take 2 years of their data and basically do a look back analysis and say, by month, if you had a product like a chief returns officer, here's the results you would have seen and the attribution that we can note in month 1, month 2, month 3, and they see the opportunity cost of inaction. And that's been very convincing and very compelling. And we can do that with very little effort on our part. So that's really been a really strong pivot for us.
That's great. So at one point, one of the reasons why a retailer would maybe seriously consider, and one of the boxes they wanted to check to onboard a solution, was they would get data in exchange. I mean, they would get whatever the offer was, but they also were very motivated by the data, the back end. I am not really hearing that that's as critical an exchange to do a solution. I think maybe because they have their own direct acquisition of information with the growth of online shopping through the pandemic. But the whole data is the new oil, and it's the carrot to kind of be like, okay, we should do this as a motivation. Where is the market with that quickly? Because believe it or not, we're almost out of time. So what are you hearing and what are you seeing in terms of the value of data for retailers? Nate, go.
To be honest, we aren't really focused on the data side of things. We're very much focused on the physical movement of goods and eliminating waste around that. Now, through that, there is a lot of data that we just naturally have through processing shipments, processing orders, that in the future could be useful to brands and others to understand consumer behavior and purchase patterns. But at the moment, we're really focused on the physical reduction of waste.
So I would say in that case, the retailer is not motivated by data. They want a solution for the face value of the solution.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. Mehdi, where are you with data?
So for us, I mean, we're a data business. The wardrobe itself and the closet is all about, what we call, that 360 view of someone in the pre-purchase and post-purchase, from when and what they have before, kicking off actually an experience on buying something, and actually what they doing with their clothes, after the purchase, the repair and all of that. I would say that, they're still super interested. That would be more for them, I would say, the more digital mature ones the one that have actually that reach already that ecomm experience, logistic experience, looking at personalization a little bit, the use case you've described. They want to actually improve the personalization and experience on the homepage, or actually on the post-purchase experience, really looking at how I shift my, I'll say, account page or account screen to actually more like a profile hub, something that actually describe me more, show me how sustainable I am when I'm buying from that brand, things like that. So the more digital mature ones is actually part of the pitch for us. It's actually understanding actually what's happening in the care and repair world, but as well, in people's wardrobe, especially again, in a time where people's behavior have changed. Like, I think the first year during the first lockdown, we've been more pitching about, and doing actually reports for brands and retailers about, what's happening out there, where people are buying, because, in a way, managing people's wardrobe, we have like a real-time view on what people are buying right now and what they have in their wardrobes and their closet. And the repair and care is actually also a new, like, I would say, business model, new, like, it's a completely new word for them. So a lot of them have no clue on what's going to happen there. Do people want to repair their clothes? How often? Where? What type of convenience? So on the top of delivering the experience for them, the logistic, the connection, and the platform, actually capturing the right data to help them make decisions in the future is really important.
Yes, I think, again, it goes back to the sophistication of the retailer, because a lot of retailers are not really set up to use insights. Some are, some aren't. It goes back to the infrastructure. Donny, tell us how you guys handle data and what value it is in your proposition to the retailer.
So I like your phrase, data is oil, data is king. We are a data organization, but singular data doesn't typically give a holistic view. So we're about aggregating disparate data sources, and then somebody has to ingest and digest that. And to your point, retailers quite often aren't well equipped for that. And most of the thriving retailers are interested in solutions now, not in just infrastructure. So what we do is we aggregate these multiple data sources, whether it's the transactional data, the voice of the customer, surveys, advanced shipping notices. We capture all that. We apply AI to digest that. We predict and we prescribe, and then we create workflows for the retailer to actually take action, and then we learn from the actions that they take. So again, each of us are coming at this from a different angle, and there is no panacea. We like to think that have this holistic view of the returns problem and the implications of returns, which has implications on sustainability, has implications on top and bottom line, has implications on consumer satisfaction. But it starts with the data, and to the degree that we can get the data to the retailer without a lot of burden, a lot of friction, and then we can digest it and prescribe for them, then they become solution focused.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's not just insights. It's insights coupled with recommended actions.
Yes.
Again, because of that bandwidth, and also just sort of, they can also interpret it themselves, but it's nice to have a starting point. It's like a blank canvas versus an editing process is a lot easier than generating something with a white paper.
Well, if you're dealing with, 16,000, 25,000 SKUs, hovering over a dashboard, even if you're a data scientist, just isn't scalable.
Not happening. Stephanie.
Yeah, without any surprise, data for us is key as well. Resale is a gold mine for data, because today a customer comes in a store, purchases something, walks out that door. The brand or the retailer, aside if, and even if he took his email and knows what customer he is, he doesn't really know, the brand doesn't really know how he's using that product, how he's interacting with it, how long does he keep it, after how long does he sell it, to whom. So all of those post-purchase data is still kind of a question mark, and that's what we're uncovering today with our service and helping the brands through their journey of becoming more circular and shifting away from the traditional linear model to something that integrates actually resale. And well, it needs to be done and powered also through data for them to understand the impact, for them to understand the value. So for us, it is extremely important in our relationship that we build with these brands to continuously serve them with new data points and to create a storytelling with those data points, so that actually they can go back to their organization and explain internally how, the different departments, how the customer journey upstream needs to look like to integrate that extension of this customer journey, which integrates the post usage of products.
I just had my own aha moment, and right here at the end, because of all of your great commentary, each of your solutions are very deeply rooted in post-purchase. It's preventing a return after the purchase, it's connecting stuff I already own, etc. So you're very deeply rooted in post-purchase. Well, guess what? Post-purchase is a new thing for retailers, and that's where an adoption problem could lie. So, I mean, when I was building stores, post-purchase was they walked around the cash wrap and handed you your bag. That was like, thank you for shopping here. That was like the fancy post-purchase experience. Bye. See you whenever. Maybe I got your address and maybe I'll mail you a little flyer to come back on Black Friday. This whole industry that has evolved from the digitization of retail, which obviously e-com's been around for a long time, but the Moore's law and the sort of technology that has ramped up and taken us here, that right there is where the mindset of the retailer is doubling down, growing, focusing. But the retail was born out of the actual purchase cycle. Come in our store, we'll do a nice window, we'll come in our store, buy some stuff, the clerk will be nice to you, and see you whenever. So this front end of pre-purchase and all of that data is there, but where you guys all are in the realm of sustainability is post-purchase. We need the focus. We need to continue to get the message out to retailers that how important post-purchase is, not just from an experience, but from the impact on the environment and on the circularity of getting that customer back to pre-purchase and purchase, because everything is interconnected. So I just had my own aha moment, because you're all incredibly informed and doing amazing things, and we're already at the end, and this could go on forever. And I want to really thank you for all of your input and encourage you to continue the good work, and we should do this again and revisit it.
Thanks very much. Great to have the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.